Welcome to Database APIs for Asterisk. So we could start with who I am. So my name is Scott Murawski. It's on the slide. I work with my brother over here, Mark Murawski, for IntellaSoft LLC. So that's our own company. We primarily focus on call centers. And so I've been programming for like 15 years professionally, and I'm a juggler too. So just in case I have to present Asterisk systems to jugglers, I mean, I could use this for both. So I got juggling aspects and Asterisk. I got the bases covered. We're hiring an Asterisk/Linux system engineer. So if you're interested in a job, you could talk to me. My favorite things to do is like middleware, and I really like databases. Like when I first started working with Asterisk, I wasn't really using databases. I was just using like really focusing on the AMI and like doing like all this like real-time event processing and stuff. And it just like got messy. And then after a while, I'm also a web developer, so I use databases all the time. And then sort of like one thing leads to another. You're like, why not try to really take advantage of the database? So here we go. So why database APIs for Asterisk? See, I got like a little Lego. Whoop! I accidentally do that. Oh, there we go. A little Lego guy juggler. He likes databases too. So why database APIs for Asterisk? Well, first of all, I could say my database can make phone calls. Can your database do that? Not anyone else's database really could do that, but mine can. So I feel pretty cool. So I was saying before, I'm already using the database for all the web services. So like, why not just like use that for everything, like just everything possible? The advantage is like since you're using a data, I'm already using a database. Every other application could easily use the database too. So if you put PBX functionality inside stored procedures or triggers, then it's really easy to build like thin GUIs, because the GUI or any kind of like interface, so any sort of external interface is going to be really thin because all of the functionality is all built into the database, and then the interface itself doesn't need an AMI connector. So you don't need like 500 AMI connections like all over, or even if you like centralize that, you don't need like proxy servers, for the AMI connectors, and you just get to avoid duplication. Like any kind of thing that you're like any kind of business logic that you find that you're putting inside the interface, you just put that in the database, and then every other interface could take advantage. And then via the database, we have an AMI connector right inside of the stored procedures, and then you could send commands straight to the AMI. And then the other cool aspect is you could really take advantage of like what databases use. You could really take advantage of exactly what databases do best, which is store data. Like we could store all the live call data in the database. So like all the AGI, it writes all the live call data. So that way, any service, like a web service, could just query that, and then bam, like that is like the exact live call data, like right now at this second. And then you have a live call data, let's say, like for conferencing, I'll be demoing later. So the user could log in. They have like the user ID. So that user ID gets stored in the live call table, and then you could do joins. So like you could join up against any other user table, and then you could just extract out like whatever information you want, like for that user. And then the second to last point, do anything you want from a stored proc. Stored procedures, you could write them in any language. We write them in Perl. We like Perl, and you could just do anything you could think of. So we open TCP connections like from inside the stored procedure, and also like we could access files like on a separate topic, but also related to Asterisk. Like we have our own custom file system. So then like from within the database, we could access files like from our own custom file system to like then further trigger more Asterisk functionality. And you could use any of this functionality from any language, and all you need is a database connector. So if you have an ODBC database connector, like there you go. You could just do dials or who knows what, like anything you want straight from the database. And you don't need to do anything special. Like you're just executing SQL, which is pretty nice. And so anyone have any questions about like the general aspects of like why you'd want to use database APIs? No questions? Okay. So then the next step, the conference bridge. So we have a conference bridge product. We have a couple of other products, and they all basically work like they have the same architecture. And we really focus on using the database, and we have stored procedures to do everything. So if the administrator wants to kick somebody off from the conference, or just kick everybody out, like end the conference or mute and unmute, like all these things, like start and stop recording. And then this is like the hand up and hand down is if it's a moderated session, like somebody has a question, then they could signal the hand up, and then it could let the moderator know to unmute them, like if they. Oh, is that somebody's asking a question? Oh, is it noise or something? Okay, yeah, it's confusing. Okay, yeah, this is good. They're closing the door. I don't need to be like any further confused. So that's the commands. That's like sending the AMI commands. That's like one thing. And then AGI, the AGI provides all the live call data and also logging. So like right before we spawn the MeetMe for the conference, we insert data into the database, saying like here's like the here's all of the user information, like the UID, like here's like the room number that they have entered, like here's their PIN, like we track everything like through the database. And then separately, we have an AMI event listener. So the MeetMe outputs all of the mutes, like whether or not somebody was muted or unmuted, because you could send the command to mute somebody, but how do you know they're really muted? Like you have to wait for the event to get back, and then once that event is received, then it updates the database. So you like mute, and then bam, like the database is updated, and now every single interface across the board that's using that database could then easily say like, oh, like that that person's muted, and also with talking status. So we get a talking status, we update the database that they're talking, and then on the web interface, we have like a little green light saying like these guys are talking. But any other interface, you'd be able to do whatever you want, like with that particular, with those field values. So all these guys, whoops, okay, going the wrong way. Yeah, so all these clowns, they're busy juggling. They need a conference. So that leads us into the live demo aspect, and we know what happens with live demos. We just have to hope that they work right. Okay, here we go. So we have an active conferences screen also. So I have my phone. Let's give this a whirl. Oh, except I have no service. Do you have any service? Okay. We're going to have to make the call then. I forgot to check that. We checked everything else. Yeah, so this is the edit conference screen. So you could have a private conference and have like a little help there. Yeah, so private is it's protected with the PIN. So once you log in, I could show you the. I have to like close these guys. Yeah. Well, you could log in. That's fine. What's the PIN? 1, 2, 3, 4. 1000. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4. It's highly secure. So he's logged in. There we go. Okay. So we go to active conferences. And active conferences. Yeah, Colorado box. Oh, there it goes. There's a little delayed. Whoa, pretty good for a live demo so far. Okay, well that's me logged in. And so that's like getting the data from the database. And I will show you the cool stuff in the database now. So here we go. So this is the conferences. So this is live conference. And then I'll show you guys the AGI and the AEL and like all that good stuff in a little bit too. Okay, so this is like viewing the, wait for it. Yeah, they're viewing the live conference data. So room 1000, and then that's the start time. And then, yeah, like the conference. We log everything, so it's like, conference log ID and like the particular conference ID. And it's multi-tenant enabled too. So that's the live conferences. And then the live members is more fun. I have to load the member schema first, like for the table. Sorry that's a little slow. Well, while that's chugging along, I could show you some snippets. Okay, so the conference, the start of it all, this is actually for like a slightly different demo system, but you could just change this to whatever you want. So you have dial extension 1000, and then 1000 calls the conference login macro. So then once you're in the macro, then it spawns the AGI over here. So I just wanted to make a note that this is originally all in one line, but split for readability. Yeah, so it spawns the AGI, the conference module, and you get some commands. So the way we write our AGI is that it's all in one file, and there's like a big switch statement of like, if it's this command or this command, like handle the various things. So it calls like the action login. So that's like a little snippet like of the AAL. So then from the AAL, we have like the and this is like other AAL snippets. The actual conference room login, which also spawns the same conference module, but it has a different action, like for the room login. So that's how this guy gets spawned. This is the conference PM main AGI module. So we just have a function, subroutine called main, and then given is the same thing as a switch statement in Perl. So depending on the action, like you do various things. So then you do like login or room login or join or kick or end, like all the various things that you would normally do in a conference. So those guys spawn the actual stuff that we care about. So that spawned the call log conference start. So this is like just straight up Perl, like that spawned like from the AEL, and this is where we do all the magic. So it's like the conference is about to start, so we insert right into the live conferences, and so then here's the data. So this is the data that we've gathered like from the user. Like they enter like what room they want to enter into, and then presto, it's in the live conferences table. And you could do anything you want, obviously, like from the AGI. So we also spawn user events. And we just prefix all our stuff with Intella. So it's Intella conference start. And then if you do have some AMI event listener, then you could pick up on all these events. So that's the general gist of like how we manage all of the live data. It's all straight from the AGI. And here's another example. We have the conference user login. So it's the same sort of thing. Like when the user actually logged in, the conference was already created. So now we need to insert a member. So the member is inserted with all the user information. So we have the user ID, and then the PIN, and like the join time, and like the other various items like the bridge number. So that way, like we could just keep track of everything all through the database. And then we also send, the associated event. And then, so for example, when the user leaves, it's no longer in the live table. So we just simply delete it out, and then it's just all deleted based on channels. So hopefully, we could see the results of those SQLs. Oh, is it still stuck? It's not so good. That means the connection is pretty bad. That's a problem. Okay. I was at the snippets. So assuming we did, do I have a, yeah, so I was really hung up. Yeah, well, I might. Yeah, so that was the AGI part. And then here's the AMI listener. So the reason why we can't do all of this like through the AGI is because we spawn the meet me, and then you're inside of the meet me, and like you have no access. So either you would need to hack up the meet me itself to like do all of these live updates, or you need an AMI listener to gather the mute status. So here's an example. This is part of like a framework which listens for events, but here's like the meat of it, where the meet me mute status. I have water. Oh well. Water bottle. Sorry about that. Okay, yeah. Wow. Getting really froggy. Yeah, testing. Well, better than nothing. So the meet me mute status, it receives this type of event, like straight from meet me, like the event and then a channel and like the particular conference and the user number, and then whether or not the person is muted. Or actually, like we have like a slight event adjuster. So this might not be like the actual event. This might be like the adjusted event, because we like to normalize things. But once we get that event, then we could then we could do a straight update, and we're updating straight up into the live members table, and then matching on the channel. And then now that member becomes either muted or unmuted, so then the interface could then update the mute status. So for example, let's suppose that, we'll see if this works. So this is the web interface control for muting. So if I do a mute there, we'll see if that, yeah, so then you see that switched to like the speaker with the slash on it. So that's actually muted now. So like the AMI listener received that event, and then it was able to update the database, and then the web interface was reading that data, and it's like, oh, it's muted, so let me change the icon for that. And then along the way, we could put our own user events out there. So like IntellaMeet me mute or unmute, like depending on the status. And the same thing with talking status. So we could, I'll show you talking status. So if I unmute that, yeah, so you could talk, oh wait, no, we only have one person. Yeah, so if we had another person in the conference, there would be a small green icon that light up when you get talking status there. And then let me switch back. Yeah, so this whole mute and unmute and talking status, that's all part of the AMI listener. Then, does anyone have any questions about the conferencing? Yep.
If I understand correctly, you keep track of the number of participants by keeping track of the AGI events for start and end of a call.
Yeah.
What do you do in the case, say, Asterisk crashes, so then the call is vanished in Asterisk, but you haven't received any AGI events saying that the call's died?
Yeah, like upon an Asterisk restart, we always clear out all the live table, because like, if you're starting Asterisk up for the first time, obviously there's going to be no activity. So that's just part of our, we have a set of watcher scripts, like which watches Asterisk. So if it notices that Asterisk is down, it restarts it, and then simultaneously like clears out all of the live tables across the board. Because we don't just have like live for conference, like we have live for core calls. Like if you just have like one phone calling the other phone, they're not conferencing. That's like a separate schema. And then we have the call queue. So we have our own custom call queue, which does very similar types of things, like inserts all of the data, like keeps track of all the live data. And then if Asterisk restarts, then there'll be no more callers. So we just clear out all that stuff and then kind of start over. Anyone else have any questions? So what time does this end? Like at 12:15? Is that right? Yeah, so and then we could go to the core aspects. There you go. Yeah, so that's the conference bridge. And then the next slide. So the core PBX. So this is how you make your database dial. So you can have stored procedures that dial, like we have triggers on our extensions. So we store all the extensions. Like we basically store all the Asterisk config in our own custom schema. And a trigger upon the extensions actually like reloads Asterisk, and part of that would rebuild the Polycom configuration files. So like you could just go into the pgadmin database tool. We use Postgres for our database, and you could just go and like edit extensions manually, and then all the magic of Asterisk like happens behind the scenes. Like you don't need to do anything. Like it all happens like through the database. And the other advantage is the database. You could have all sorts of constraints. So we could really verify that like a user, even with like full access, assuming they don't delete constraints, they cannot break anything at all. Because like everything is like fully constrained, and no matter what they do, there's just the database like won't let you break stuff. So that's like a huge advantage. Because if you give someone access to any of the like extensions.conf or who knows what, they just could wreak havoc, like just put in like one extra period. But the database won't let you do those kind of things. And in a similar fashion, so the AGI provides the live call data, and then we have an AMI event listener that keeps track of transfers. So I could show you some snippets. Whoops. There you go. So snippets for the call router. Oh, I gotta exit out of this first. That's the next set of snippets. Yeah, so the call router AEL. So this spawns the actual call router AGI, and then passes some standard parameters. And then, so once it gets into the call router, once it gets into the call router AGI, then it runs like the command dial out. So like if anyone's dialing anyone else, it just inserts into the live core that calls. It just inserts like a ton of information, and it does a lot of other stuff. So you can send out events. You can do whatever you want. So that's the basic idea of keeping track of the caller status. Oh, jumping too far ahead there. Okay. So we'll see if this works. So we'll connect to a different system here. This is the local one. Hopefully the local one will work better. Oh, the member's actually loaded? Oh, the member's loaded. Okay. There we go. So I think we're still called in. Oh. Okay. Yeah, so he could call in again. You calling in again? Okay. He's calling in again. Oh, yeah, he'll be there soon. Yeah, so he's just called in. Yeah, so that appeared there. And then if I refresh this table, so this is the members table. and then get one row. There we go. Then we get the UID there, and then we would be able to join up that UID with the rest of the users table. Yeah, there's quite a number of other items in here. And the advantage is, like with your own custom schema, you can add whatever the heck you want. Yeah, so then if we look at the these guys, so that's the live conference. So if we looked at the conference, oh, this probably may take a while. I probably shouldn't have clicked that. Yeah, look at that. Yeah, but it's gonna click. Yeah, so I could do. Well, I could just kill this and like reconnect. Sorry about all the problems. Close the program. Okay, there we go. So for the last demo, oh, I might have lost like the server. Oh yeah, Asterisk. Okay, so I could connect to the local system. And then in live core, there's functions. Is it live? Oh wait, no, asterisk. And then we have, oh, that's sequences. Yeah, we have PBX dial. So then I could start. I had a query prepared, but then since I just killed pgadmin, I lost it. But here we go. Whoops. So select asterisk.pbx dial, and then what was the like 26? 2603 is one extension, and then 2604 is the other. And then we could just call him Bob. And then we could run this. And then hopefully, oh, there you go. So the phone is ringing. Is that phone ring? There you go. Beep, 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 beep. Yeah, so you could hear the echo. So that actually worked. We can hang up. Yay. So that is dialing from your database, an SQL command, asterisk.pbx dial. And then you could have any other you could replicate the entire asterisk command interface. So like every single thing you could do through the AMI, you would be able to make an SQL function to do that. So you'd be able to have dial, and like you could have hang up or redirect or or anything, any AMI command you want. Or you could even run asterisk like from the command line. So for an example, like for the I was mentioning the extensions. So we have on. Can you show the dial command in the procedure? Oh yeah. Yeah. Okay. So what I could do is that's a good point. I could maximize this. I'm not sure like how to change the font. I don't have a wheel. Oh well, so it's kind of small. Can you guys see that? Oh, it's not too bad, I guess. So yeah, we have like our main initializer, like we call it IntellaConfig, and then here's the other thing, the Asterisk Manager. So this is actually an open source module that's on CPAN that we found. We made some tweaks to it, but yeah. So we have man, that's my man, and then so man that gets like a new manager instance. So that's the thing that actually connects to the AMI, and then you give it. Well, yeah, it doesn't connect just yet. It connects a little bit further below, but you set all the standard items. So you have a user, secret, host, and port, and then there you go, connect. So if it can't connect, then it just dies. And then we do some like initial items like getting some phone information, and then we send the actual command. So these key value pairs right over here, that's just like straight AMI key value pairs, and so it just sends like the originate, and then like the caller ID and channel, and then like once that's sent, then you're ideally if you if you have the right information and the extensions are active, then your phone rings, and then at the end just like a little bit of cleanup like disconnect, and then return success, and then at that point in time, so I will actually like run this again. Yes, it's okay because like there's nobody else coming in. Okay. Okay. All right, thanks. Okay, so I'm out of time. But is there anyone else coming in after this? No. Okay, so I could go like a couple minutes? Yep. Okay. So if you guys could leave if you want, but I'm going to do like one last demo. So we'll call Bob, and the phone is ringing. And then this phone will ring. Yep, so those are connected. So I'll just beat them. And then we could check out the live calls. So this is live core. So we could check out tables, calls. And then we could view this. And then there we go. So that's Bob. And then that's 2604 and 2603 somewhere. Oh yeah, 2603 in the channel. So like that information is written, from like the AGI call router. And then like we just track everything through the database. So I could get to the conclusion slide. Oops. Yeah, so in conclusion, so we have like a very centralized and normalized Asterisk interface like via the database. Like we just have like one interface that you could do anything you want to Asterisk. Super easy to use from any language. And so like since we have a small team, like it's just 3 of us in our company, and 2 of us are programmers, we don't want to build like libraries for like every single language. Like here's our like Perl library to connect to all our custom stuff, or like here's our Python library or Java or .NET, all those different things. We don't want to do that. We want to write like the least amount of code possible. So if you have all your stuff in the database and then every single language already has a database connector, then like we don't need to do anything else. Like we just work like the database is like our product basically, and then it makes your database fancy, just like fire spinning. It's pretty fancy. Yeah, so that's my conclusion.